Hi, welcome to the latest edition of Bronco Sports Weekly. I'm Matt Kanan. Last week was chock full of events in Bronco Athletics, so let's get started. The Bronco hockey team split its third home series in a row, splitting with Ohio State last weekend at Lawson Ice Arena. The Broncos took Friday's game 3-2 in overtime as Matt Tennyson, Kyle O'Kane, and Dane Walters all scored for the Broncos in the win. Saturday, the Broncos could not hold a lead, coming back from 2-0 to score 3 straight goals, but falling in regulation 4-3 to Ohio State. Broncos are still alone in second place in the CCHA standings and control their own destiny heading into the final 2 series of the regular season. Men's basketball dropped a pair of heartbreakers against the MAC East last week, falling at home to Akron 69-66 in overtime. Even though Mike Douglas and Flanard Whitfield scored 15 points and 12 points respectively, Mikey Douglas's runner late in overtime did not go, and unfortunately the Broncos fell to the Zips at home. On the road, Western Michigan fell 59-57 at Buffalo. Matt Steinbrook had a double-double, but with 2 free throws missed with 1 second to go, Western Michigan fell on the road to close out its schedule against the MAC East. Gymnastics suffered its first loss of the season, falling by 0.8 of a point to Eastern Michigan and falling 1 win short of its best start in program history, which would have been 6. The Broncos accomplished that feat in 1988. Softball began its 2012 campaign at the Kajikawa Classic in Tempe, Arizona, taking on a pair of top 10 teams, including defending national champion Arizona State. Western Michigan secured just 1 win during the tournament, defeating Cal State Northridge 9-0 in 5 innings. Diana Patterson tied the program record for home runs in a game with 2 home runs against number 9 Tennessee. The highlight of the Tyson Invitational for the track and field team was the 4x400 relay team that broke the 340 mark for the first time all season, running 3:39.1 seconds to win their heat. And finally, women's tennis went 2-1 with straight victories over Bradley and Oakland, defeating those 2 teams 7-0, but falling to number 48 Purdue on the road. Megan Raminzi was 2-0 last week as she had just 2 matches at the number 1 single spot. Now let's take a look at some highlights from the past week. To University Arena we go. Western Michigan men's hoops taking on Akron. Mikey Douglas finds Matt Steinbrook, one of 8 assists on the night for the senior guard. This time, Mikey takes it himself, lays it in 2 of a team-high 15 points. The other Bronco in double figures, Flanard Whitfield, 12 points on the night against the Zips. Here, Austin Ritchie works around the top of the key and will knife through the defense for a layup, his only score of the night. But Western Michigan had a rough go of it against the MAC East, falling in overtime 69-66 to the Zips. Lawson Ice Arena, number 18 Western Michigan taking on number 15 Ohio State. Broncos on the power play. Matt Tennyson smokes his 8th goal of the year, 1:38 to go in the second period. Broncos lead 1-0. After an Ohio State goal, Kyle O'Kane nets his 4th of the year. Broncos up 2-1. Frank Slabowski in net for the Broncos both games of the Ohio State series, and here with a great save, 1 of 23 on the night, Friday night for the big Slabowski. And in overtime, Dane Walters, goal, overtime winner. Western Michigan takes out Ohio State 3-2 on Friday. To Saturday night we go, again, Buckeyes Broncos. Chase Balassi, his 10th of the year, cuts Ohio State's lead in half. Broncos trail 2-1. Here again, Slabowski with the save. He had 26 on the night. Will Kessel, freshman, ties the score at 2. Matt Tennyson would add another, but Ohio State would go on to win 4-3.
Hi, welcome to Bronco Sports Weekly. I'm Matt Kanan. We're sitting here with freshman guard, maybe shooting guard, Julia Henson from the women's basketball team, a native of Plainfield, Indiana. First question, you're a freshman, yes, as an athlete, but you're a freshman in college. What was the biggest kind of change or transition you had to make from high school to living on your own in college?
Well, my parents prepared me pretty well, but mostly I think like the time restrictions, kind of like doing everything on my own. It was kind of like, they said, oh, you got to wake yourself up, like you got to be here, kind of like I don't know, just like guiding myself pretty much. So I think just like waking up for class on time, just being here, being there. So probably just like time mostly. Were you told to get 2 alarm clocks or use your phone and an alarm clock and another alarm clock? Yeah, I was told that, but I usually only use my phone one.
Let's take it onto the court now. You've burst onto the scene, shooting the ball really well obviously from outside. 5 of your last 10 games, you shot over 40% from 3. What is the mindset of a shooter going into a game to have a good game?
Well, usually it's threes, and I really just try to make everyone, every single time it goes in, I just tell myself it just has to go in, that, because that's what I'm here for. I mean, that's my purpose. So that's kind of I'm just trying to play my role and kind of do my part.
Okay, there's 2 parts to this question. First, when you're in a game and you knock down the first couple threes, is that all it takes for you to know you're kind of in a rhythm? And answer that first.
Kinda. It really just depends on how I release it. But once it's kind of funny. One of my teams is kind of oh, I went 3 threes this game. I went this. So it's kind of a little bit of motivation. So then once my bench is just cheer, that's kind of it kind of gets me pumped up. And then I have that mindset. Then oh, I can't miss. So that definitely does help once I.
Now the other part of the second part of the question is, you've shot a couple and maybe they don't go down. Mm-hmm. How many is your mindset just keep shooting and they'll come, or is there ever a time where you're I just don't have it tonight, I need to do something else to get my other teammates involved?
A little bit of both. I mean, sometimes kind of I gotta, as I'm a shooter, kind of shoot myself out of that little rut sometimes, but other, it's just kind of I gotta do percentage-wise. So say if I'm 30 or 40% shooter, I'm well, if I shot 4, if I've shot 2, I was well, then hopefully percentage-wise, my third one's gonna go in because it'll be right at 30% or something like that. So I just kind of tell myself well, if I just miss this one, this one's gotta go in. That's just how I think. So.
Now against Buffalo, you had 7 threes, is 1 shy of the school record. If you're feeling it on a night, how many threes do you think you can make?
Right now, I kind of feel anything less than 4, I'm just I feel I have a bad game now. So I kind of feel anywhere from 5 is good for me. But I think I can do about 8. I think I can go for the record.
Let's see you try and do that. Now, very important questions. Mm-hmm. I hear that you are a very big fan of Martha Stewart.
I love Martha Stewart. I'm a huge fan.
What is it about Martha that is so great, 1, and 2, that you want to aspire to be the next Martha Stewart?
Okay, well, I like to sew, and then Martha's the queen of sewing. She just kind of does it all. I mean, she cooks, she does gardening and sewing, and she just kind of everything that I like to do. So I know it's kind of silly, but just I love Martha Stewart, but everything about her except the fact that she went to jail. So,
well, that's a negative. Yeah. I mean, everybody's got skeletons, but how about tablescapes? Does she do tablescapes, or do you know what tablescapes are?
Not really. Not quite sure what that is.
Okay, well, it's setting up the table and making it look real pretty for some really nice food. I don't know. But off the court and when you're away from basketball, what is it that kind of makes you feel comfortable and makes you feel like you're at home?
Well, since we just talked about, I do like to sew a lot. That's what I do. It's my major and everything. So fashion design. So in my dorm room, it's it's a little messy because I have fabric everywhere. But I mean, that's kind of in the summer, I had my own place. So I just like to sew, and that's what I like to do. And I like to make things for other teams. I make some of them bags. So that's what I like to do.
Final question: the Grammys were last Sunday. Give me your best and worst dressed.
I did not watch it.
What was the last award show you watched?
I really can't even tell you.
Who was the best and worst dressed actor or actress right now that you like to see in what they wear?
Rachel McAdams. I love Rachel McAdams.
Worst dressed?
Ooh.
They're not going to see it, don't worry.
I don't know.
Nicki Minaj. She said Nicki Minaj.
No, Lady Gaga. Got it.
All right. Well, I want to thank Julia Henson for joining us today. Good luck to the women's basketball team the rest of the way and into the MAC tournament. For Bronco Sports Weekly, I'm Matt Kanan.
And now here are the top 5 things you should be watching for in Bronco sports this week. Number 5, women's basketball opens the week's action at home Wednesday night at 7 p.m. against Eastern Michigan for the Play for K Cancer Awareness Game. Broncos will be wearing their pink uniforms, and we ask all Bronco fans to be doing the same in the stands. The women's basketball team closes out the week at Toledo on Saturday, 12 p.m. for a showdown with the Rockets. That game will air live on Sports Time Ohio. Number 4, it's a full weekend of Western Michigan tennis at West Hills as the Broncos will host a doubleheader on Friday, the men taking on Butler and the women hosting DePaul. The men come back to West Hills on Sunday for a 1 p.m. showdown with Iowa. The hockey team plays its second-to-last series of the regular season as it travels up to Sault Ste. Marie to take on Lake Superior State. The Broncos control their own destiny, needing 2 series sweeps to claim their first ever CCHA regular season title. Number 2, men's basketball gets back into action against the MAC West with a road game at Northern Illinois Wednesday night at 8 p.m. The Broncos then stay on the road, travel to Fargo, North Dakota to take on North Dakota State University for Saturday's Bracket Buster game. That game can be seen live on WMUBroncos.com if you are a Bronco Insider subscriber. And the number one thing to look for this week, it's finally baseball season. The Western Michigan baseball season gets underway with a 3-game series at nationally ranked Arizona State. Friday's game is at 6:30 p.m., while Saturday and Sunday start at 1 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. respectively. Well, that wraps up this week's edition of Bronco Sports Weekly. I'd like to thank Julie Henson from the women's basketball team. We'll be here next week. Same Bronco time, same Bronco place. Thanks for watching.
I'm Victoria Chapman, a senior sprinter on the Western Michigan track and field team and a psychology major. The dedication it takes to be a student athlete today is pretty much working hard and making sure that you're taking care of your academics and also making sure you're a member of your team. When I'm preparing for a race, I'm thinking about getting into my zone and just going out and competing. I'm a Bronco and I am the power of gold.